Hi, my name is Ewa Van Doorn, and today I'll be talking about how to attract and retain more customers with CIAM technology. As mentioned before, my name is Ivo Van Doorn. I'm a senior solution engineer with Auth0. At Auth0, I empower new customers to understand what Auth0 can do for them and how it can do it technically. Before I introduce what Scaled Access and Auth0 can do for you, let's talk about the customer journey of implementing CIAM. CIAM doesn't stop after registration, and so we assist users and organizations throughout the whole customer journey. First, registration. You don't want to burden your users with long sign-up processes. Providing a login screen that can be easily extended to add social login and progress a profile, in addition to something that can be completely branded and is consistent among the major browsers. This is the entry point to your brand. Consent. People who register need to give consent to two things. They have to agree with applicable terms and conditions before using the service they're registering for, and they have to give consent to how their personal data is stored and accessed and used by the platform. Check. Being able to tie into identity verification APIs in order to ascertain who the user is might be a requirement in certain verticals like banking and healthcare or government. Fine-grained access. Not everybody who's checked needs to have the same type of access. Fine-grained access means that every request is verified according to the context of that individual user at that point in time. It's a concept of zero trust. And no, this does not apply to only employees, but it also applies for consumers. Convenient access. Establishing long sessions and being able to set that per application allows a user to already be logged in when they visit your site after a few times. However, at the same time, challenging the user in the form of having them re-enter their password or utilizing multi-factor authentication whenever the user performs a sensitive operation, such as checking out an order or viewing personal identifiable information in their profile. Omnichannel. This is especially relevant in verticals that provide both a brick and mortar experience and an online experience. These two experiences should be seamless to the user. Multi-brand. Single sign-on provides your user a way to reuse their account across your multiple brands. Sharing access. Sharing access is what people do, but we've provided them with a way that they can do securely on your terms and without sharing passwords to their accounts. Data-driven insights. Data-driven insights really means providing you with the data on your users' activity and relationships and to be able to become more customer-centric. Finally, win back. Users' preference on what they use to log in changes over time. Think about Apple introducing Sign In with Apple last year. Being able to recognize returning users, but more importantly, allowing them to link their new account to their old profile allows a user to easily return back to your brand. So how does Auth0 and Scaled Access fit into this? Auth0 and Scaled Access is one common platform that combines the authentication and authorization pipeline as shown here. It is simple to integrate with your application and highly customizable for your needs. Scaled Access seamlessly connects with both Auth0 for authentication and with the resource for authorization. Auth0 authenticates that user who they claim or she claims to be, whereas Scaled Access checks if the attributes are in place that the access policy requires to permit granular access to your resource. Or to put it very differently, your resource can rely on real-time authorization decisions from our distributed authorization and authentication service. And so let's dive a little deeper into some of the concepts I briefly introduced. And we'll start with registration. The login and registration screens are the entry points for your brand. Login screens should allow for complete and easy customization of the login screen, and it is a demand of any marketing team. Out of the box, low code implementation should render the same in all major browsers, such as Chrome or Edge, Firefox, and Safari. And for those that serve other businesses, think about your partners. Utilizing features like home realm discovery allows your partners to be redirected to their identity provider. Another thing I'd like to cover is contextual consent. Consent is an explicit decision of a user who wants to use your service for a particular purpose in a particular context. You cannot capture this type of consent in Boolean, such as a yes or no, or true or false. Consent is contextual depending on country, language, service, role, and other dimensions. That implies that we can ask for consent multiple times. If the context, role, or purpose changes, and we also foresee that the consent is not only given to those organizations, but we can also be given to the user within the new sharing economy. Consent is also a prerequisite before any access is granted, not only to match compliance, but also to create user trust. A user consents to their information being used. Without consent, there should be no access. However, building an acceptable user journey when new consent needs to be given is a challenge. You might want to offer the user a grace period. And a grace period here means a time slot you offer the user to grasp the additional terms and conditions you're asking him or her to consent to, but without denying them access. Now, not everybody needs the same access to your service, and this is where fine-grained access comes into play, not only from a security point of view, but also from a user experience point of view. You do not want to give access to relevant information or functionalities. Auth0 and scaled access will let you build rules on who gets to do what. Rules that fit your business strategy. Who do you want to attract in the first place? Who do you want in that ecosystem? Who are the different stakeholders outside of your organization who should get access to the same service? These rules can include attributes such as the subject, who is the person. We're not only talking about this role, but also attributes such as age, expertise, country of residence, action. What is the user trying to do? Are they trying to edit something? Are they trying to manage something? Are they trying to share an article? Context. Now, Auth0 can let you know where he or she is logging in from, what device, what location, at what time, which really then these things can be all taken into consideration on the resource. Depending on the subject and action and context, you do not have to give access to everything. If the user is suddenly logging in from a location they've never logged in before, they don't get access. However, if they're logging in from within your corporate internet, perhaps they get more access. Maybe you don't trigger MFA. These are all decisions that can be done real time. Finally, access is not only dependent on what person is requesting access, but also where he or she is in the customer journey. Let's take, for example, of a user who wants to have access to an online newspaper. An online newspaper could offer multiple tiers to their subscription. A viewer only gets trial or metered access, maybe just a few articles, whereas a subscriber gets full access and they can view everything, whereas a premium subscriber can engage with the journalist who wrote the piece or get access to other titles in your library. With Auth0, there is no differentiation made between these tiers. The user, all three users, get the same exact login screen and the same exact registration screens. However, as the user moves up or down the tiers, Scaled access will ensure the user has the right entitlements that is part of their subscription. Now, there is an evolution on authorization. Scaled access is at the top of the evolutionary ladder of authorization. They support a concept called relationship-based access control. Let's take it back. Let's step back. We remember the days that the system administrator had to give each individual person access. We got smarter and we decided to have roles, but roles are too limited. For example, you have 3 people in the same role, but really some are more equal than others. After roles, we now have attribute-based access control, or ABAC, which makes a lot of sense for users of the same organization. But how do you handle giving people outside the organization that need access to something that someone already has access to in the organization, but in this case, they need access to it? And this is where relationship-based access control comes in. Let's go a little deeper on that concept. Say you're a patient and you have access to your medical record. You are the owner of your own medical record. Makes complete sense. You should be able to share that medical record with your healthcare professional. That healthcare professional should be able to then determine how to take care of your medical needs. However, relationship is not a definition of a single relationship. It can be multi-hop as well. Think, for example, about a care provider. You have multiple healthcare professionals. A care provider could be a hospital. You have multiple healthcare professionals part of that hospital. You're sharing your record with the care provider, which then can be viewed by individual healthcare professionals. But it doesn't just stop at the people that take care of you, but it also can be something that you want to give someone else access to, say your partner or your daughter or son, in case you're elderly and you want to have someone else have access to that critical information. These are all things that come up when it comes to relationship-based access control. Then they don't just end there. This is just one example. So today I highlighted registration, consent, fine-grained access, and sharing as items along the customer journey on implementing customer CIAM. Auth0 and Scaled Access understands and can support all of these different things inside the journey. By using the combination of Auth0 in authentication and Scaled Access for authorization, we give you best of world's offering, ultimately leading you to attract and retain more customers with CIAM technology. And last but not least, this integration is available today in Auth0's marketplace. You can go to marketplace.auth0.com and you can view the integration that we talked about today. Are there any questions?